Well, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Christian Ballard Sports Media coming at you, representing Wallace State tonight too. Love it, man. I'm excited. We got a lot to talk about. It's still the college football off season. Sadly, college basketball is done. Baseball is getting underway, though. Some news in the NBA I do want to talk about, though. I do want to get back to talking some of that. Maybe I could go live for the playoffs or something, but we'll see what happens. I'm not anti NBA. It's not like that. I don't know. I kind of get away. And, you guys know I'm a college student. So I'm lucky that I not necessarily find time for all this, but um, I can't keep up with every sport. And quite honestly, I try to keep up with my most favorite sports. Um, More than anything else. And obviously, as you guys know, that starts with football, and then it kind of goes to baseball. Although when March Madness does roll around, that yeah, we get into that. So I don't know if anyone's going to show up, but we're live on Facebook and YouTube as always here at Ballard Sports Media. Hey, do me a favor if you are watching or maybe you're watching it back and you're new, please hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Really would appreciate it. If you're on Facebook, would appreciate it if you guys like the Facebook page. Check out the website too, www.ballardsports19.wixsite.com. I'm getting kind of used to saying that more, but there's a link on Facebook and there's a link on the YouTube channel as well. But we're going to look at some NBA tonight. We really are, and we'll look at first, though. I do want to recap the Florida State game. I think that I thought it was pretty interesting, actually. I thought the offense had a good game. Now, I wish I could say that spring games will give you an outlook on how teams are going to be, which I guess that is the case. But it's not completely true. That's not always the case. The spring game is not going to define a team. It's not. It's not what's going to define a team. But it gives you as a fan or even the experts out there an idea of what you're messing with these teams. What's up, Nate? How you doing, buddy? I love you, man. Good to see you. Good seeing you, buddy. All right. Oh, hold on. The FSU Garnet and Gold recap. The run game was amazing. The passing game did not exist. Right? Let me share this with you. This is from TallahasseeDemocrat.com. I didn't see who put this out. I apologize. I always like to give credit and quote sources. Kurt Wheeler and Carter Carrolls put this out at 4:28, 4:27 Eastern, whatever, earlier today. Mike Norvell, I guess this is from the other day, him addressing spring practices. They've had 12 so far, and they had their spring game today, of course. And they had the game tonight. And they did have they had a lot of offensive line injuries, right? So that kind of held them back. But honestly, going back and seeing this, what I did see was that they got some really good defense. I mean, they really do. I got to give Florida State a ton of credit. They can run the ball very well. They cannot pass the ball. Well, I don't want to say that they can't. But okay, the run game totals 271 or 270 yards. It says that the passing game struggled. It was not very explosive, right? But look at this. And I only saw so much of this game because we kind of flopped back and forth today throughout spring games. I mostly try to pay attention to the Clemson game. But FSU does stick out a bit, right? Let's see. Quarterbacks Jordan Travis, that's a name from last year. Keep an eye on him. Tate Roadmaker, AJ Duffy, a walk-on Geno English, combined for only one completion longer than 13 yards. You're telling me Florida State had 4 quarterbacks today that played in the spring game. That's normal because you want to rotate your quarterbacks. You want to give everybody a chance in the spring game to see who's going to be the best to lead the team. You mean to tell me in your spring game, in the spring game, not that it's too big of a deal. This isn't the playoffs. This isn't the regular season yet. In your spring game, you had 4 quarterbacks. There was one completion longer than 13 yards to a receiver. Oh, man. They struggled to contain the pass rush, to have those longer passing plays. To read some of this here, they still managed to turn 58 carries into 270 yards and 4 touchdowns. The run game helped them. Trey Benson led the way with 77 yards on 7 attempts. Okay. Tate Rodemaker throws the first touchdown of scrimmage. Okay. And this was updated, by the way, all throughout the evening. Offense ends the first half pretty strongly. 3 touchdowns in the final 6:23 of the first half. But it got off to a really rough start, I guess. Pass rush, running back Trey Benson stand out in the first quarter. Did anybody actually watch this game? What's up? How's the second place losers doing this evening? We're doing pretty good. Thanks, SEC Dog. Hey, y'all earned it. Y'all earned that title. SEC Dog says, Ballard, the voice of Bama football, like George, the voice of Florida. Yeah, man. I got you. I'm going to try to go live for the A-Day game next Saturday for you guys. But overall, the passing game, I know I put non-existent. I guess maybe I must have missed something. It doesn't seem like that, but the run game is really what led and dominated this game. The pass rush kind of went away in the second half for them. It looked amazing in the first quarter of play. I don't have the rosters in front of me or whatever, but they did I'll tell you what, they did block a field goal on 4th and 14 in the first quarter. The Garnet did over the Gold. They got through there. Number 6 got his hands on it. 21 picked it up. It actually just landed at his hands. It was actually pretty impressive. So defensive special teams for Florida State, well done. Overall, this is one of those teams I want to watch out for. Now, this is another topic that I didn't think to really make one of the main focus points. But when you look at the ACC this year in 2022, right, we got plenty of months till the football season. We got 4.5, 5 months, right? Clemson struggled last year. They had a great defensive spring game today, too. Cade Klubnik, the freshman quarterback over there, looked phenomenal. I got to give him props. But is Clemson going to get back to that level? Or could we start to see, and I'm not saying Clemson's fallen off, but maybe it takes them a couple more years to get back to that dominance. Maybe something happened. Because you also got to think they did lose Tony Elliott and they lost Brent Venables. So is a team like Florida State, great run game, right? Great pass rush, too. They had some good defense, good defensive special teams. Is a team like Florida State going to come up out of nowhere this year? Who's winning the ACC, let alone winning the divisions and making it to Charlotte? I think I'd be crazy to sit here and say that it won't be Clemson. I wasn't too impressed. And I thought they struggled. I thought the defense was great. I thought the offense for Clemson today, what I saw, was just outright shocking. Yeah, I thought they'd get back to it. I thought they figured it out. I don't know. SEC Dog says they look like hot garbage. I don't know if that, I think that's a bit too harsh. I don't know, but maybe. Um, but again, I want to get back to the FSU game here because that's the one that really stood out. I thought their run game was just phenomenal. Trey Benson is going to be a star in college football, I think. And don't quote me on that. Jared Verse, by the way, the defensive end, um, you know, he got a sack on a quarterback in his first two possessions, right? He blocked the field goal at the end of the second team's um, first possession or whatever. Defense had edge over offense. I mean, I'll put the link to this, by the way, in the comments. But overall, from what I'm reading and what I did see, I kind of saw this too. I mean, I think Florida State's got to figure out their offense for sure. But I'll be remiss if Florida State's defense is not at least top 15 going into the season, there's something wrong because it looked phenomenal. Mike Norvell is building something very special over there. And I think there's a lot to look out for. 13 played pretty good, 9, 48 for Florida State, really on both sides. But I think especially what do they call it? The Garnet. It's like the Garnet and Gold spring game. So the Garnet's like their shade of red. And then gold is basically their road uniforms. But their defense looked phenomenal. And I think this defense for Florida State is going to be pretty phenomenal this year too. And I think it's going to be something to keep an eye on in college football overall. And I'm not here to say Florida State's back. I darn sure don't think that. But I don't think they're going to be terrible. And they could look, they're going to quickly, just like that, forget all about Willie Taggart. I'm sorry to say his name for State fans, but welcome to the Mike Norvell era. I think he might be the coach that can get this going. And again, you can't base a team off a spring game necessarily. And I know that's kind of what I'm doing here. But, if they take the offseason, they work with the offseason, they go forward with the offseason, they get to fall camp and everything. I think they have a good chance, and they can take it a long way. I really think so. So I'm keeping an eye on the Florida State Seminoles here in 2022 because that defense looked lights out for sure today. And again, like I said, don't base it off a spring game, but let's say if they want to produce that on the field during the fall, you imagine, and I'll do the ACC. I think I'm going to do the Big Ten next after the SEC teams, but we'll do the ACC probably third. And we'll definitely start with like Clemson and Florida State. I'll have to look at their schedule, but this could be something interesting. I really think so. But we'll see. Don't they open up with like Notre Dame or whoever? Hold on. They have a really big opening game that will really set the tone for their season. Florida State. Hold on. Don't tell me comment section. Well, they got DeQuesne, whoever that is. Florida State LSU on September 4th. That's right. Then they go to Louisville. They play teams like Boston College and Wake at home. It's a tough start, but it's manageable, honestly. And that's a Monday night game playing LSU, by the way. So that could be one to stream. That's Labor Day weekend. I'm sorry, that's a Sunday night game. That's still Labor Day weekend. But yeah, Florida State LSU could be a heck of a game. I'm excited for that one. But shout out to FSU. We'll get off this one and let's move forward. Anyway, I do have a little bit of NBA stuff I wanted to talk to you guys about because I mean I have been watching. I just haven't really been talking. But give me 1 second. All right. How about the Heat? It's getting a little hot in here. Miami Heat, they're coming in hot, as Lecrae, a good Christian rapper, once said. Coming in hot, coming in hot. Anyway, they have won 6 straight games. They are 6-4 in their last 10. Right? One of their games being against the Atlanta Hawks. Right? Who don't necessarily have a better record than them, but they are one of the hotter teams in the NBA. Right? Miami is doing so well right now. They're first in the Southeastern Division. Win streak is 6 ever since the Nets lost a few weeks ago. Their next game will be tomorrow, as I'm recording this on Saturday, at 7 p.m. against the Magic, who aren't doing too well. They're 21-60. Good grief, that's bad. That's 25%. Anyway, Miami, the Heat, right? Let's take this. Let's take a look at this here, and see what they're doing because they got a lot going for them. Bam Adebayo's late dunk yesterday lifts the Heat over the Hawks 113-109. Go ahead dunk with 27 seconds, 24 points in a comeback victory on Friday night. So this was last night. They blew out. I mean, look at this. They are scoring 144 points on Charlotte, who isn't a bad team. The Hornets are 42-39. They're above 500. They're back 11 games. They're on a win streak of 2. I mean, it's not like the Heat are, beating up on high school type of teams. It's not like that. They're playing good competition. I mean, I mentioned the Hornets of Charlotte. You got Miles Bridges in there. And for Miami, you got Tyler Hero, who scored 35 points in that game. They held on and only gave up a 31 3-point percentage to Charlotte. I mean, they let them drive inside a bit, but overall, I mean, they're scoring. It's so weird. I noticed. I have actually seen some of their games lately, but like they'll have a quarter where how do I put this? It's like it's very slow for them at first in like the first quarter, and then the second quarter they want to just ball out and give it everything they got, and they're scoring 40 to 35, 40 points in the next quarter. Then they kind of slow it down in the third, but then they pick it up and blow you out in the fourth. It's so weird to see. Miami's doing an insane and incredible job. 6-4 in their last 10 games. Where do they go from here? Is this a team to get back and win the finals? Weren't they in the finals last year? Hold on. Let me double check. 2020, 21, NBA finals. I think that they were. Or no, I'm sorry. It was the Bucks and the Suns. The Bucks won, of course. They were pretty close, though. But anyway, this is a team that I think has figured it out. They were a playoff team, of course, in the Eastern Conference. And I think the Bucks had got them, and then the Bucks went on to get the Suns. I don't know. We're going back to the Bucks beat the Hawks. The Suns got, I think, the Clippers. But anyway, I'm getting too off topic. I do think the Heat are in a good position to make a good run. Who's mostly in their way right now? Well, they got to be careful not to lose what's left of the season. They got to win out. Well, they really don't have to, but it would be great. You're going to have to face the Bucks, the Celtics, the Sixers, the Raptors, the Bulls. You're going to have to face some of those teams in the postseason. Now, again, they're above 600, 65 win percentage, 53-28, right? They're on a win streak of 6. You know, they're scoring 110 points per game. They have one of the better defenses in the league, only giving up 105 points a game, right? They're not exactly scoring as much as what Milwaukee is, but their defense darn sure is giving up less than what Milwaukee is, right? They lead the Eastern Conference. You look at the Western Conference, by the way, the Phoenix Suns are up there 64-17. Good grief. They have the best league record. They've clinched that. It's not even close. Overall, you know, what's up, fools? Yo, 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 my man. Traveling fools. Back to the Heat real quick. They are coming in hot. They've won 6 straight. They're 6-4. I think it's only up from here, man. I really think Bam Adebayo and company over in Miami are just living the life in South Beach. You know what I mean? Like, they got to. I remember when they had Chris Bosh. You remember him? Anyway, that was a while back, but I mean, Miami hasn't been this good. I mean, I know they've been a great team in recent years, but like, man, this is incredible. Miami. I mean, the Dolphins are struggling to get to the playoffs. The Hurricanes act like they're something they're not. Now Miami's got something to be proud of. Sorry to offend any Miami fans out there. I don't care. They've got 3 championships in history. Remember they went back-to-back in 2012 and 2013, right? They won one in 2006, right? They've won 6 conference titles. They won in 2020. They won their division now this year. And it is so incredible to see what they're doing. They've never really been a bad program. You know, they have not made or really won the finals since, I guess they haven't won a championship since 2013. You're going back 11 years, right? Or 9. Wait, it's not 11 years. 9 years? I did that math wrong. I apologize, right? Remember they had Ray Allen, Chris Bosh, you know, LeBron James was the MVP of the 2013 finals. Dwayne Wade. Oh, my gosh. What a team that was. Rebound champions. They'd always get the rebound. They'd shoot the 3. They would run it up on you. They didn't screw around. Man, they're in that position right now. Right now. Miami is in a good position to go all the way. Now, you got to beat the Magic tomorrow. Well, they don't have to. They take a loss. They're still in the lead. I want to see real quick. I want to see the standings and see where they are league-wise. Forget their division for a second. Let's see where they are league-wise. But Miami is doing outstanding. Is that the best league record right there? 53? I think we kind of actually just talked about this. They're third. They're barely behind the Grizzlies, and nobody's going to catch the Suns. Give me the Suns and the Heat. Think about that for a second. The Suns and the Heat. The Heat Suns. It's going to be a hot NBA Finals matchup right there, baby. Woo! Yeah. Let's go. This is what you want. The Mavericks are in there. The Celtics, the Bucks, the Sixers, the Raptors, the Jazz, the Nuggets. Playoff, what is that? Play-in berth. Oh, they got those play-in games, don't they? The Spurs, the Pelicans, the Clippers, the Hornets, the Hawks. Some of those teams could sneak up on you. I don't know if we use the term Cinderella team in the NBA. I mean, that's really a March Madness thing, but could those teams sneak up? I think so, but be careful. I love the defense of Miami. I mean, it's one of the better ones in the league. I mean, only giving up really 105 points a game on average is pretty darn good. So, but overall, I'll say this: Miami Heat and Bam Adebayo and everybody like that is just on a hot streak. They're coming in hot, and they're not going anywhere. They're going to take it. They're going to run with it. They might make it back to the finals. Who knows? But you can bet that they'll make a good playoff run. Guarantee you. Anyway. What's up, Hokey? How you doing, buddy? ACC champs. There you go. Yes, sir. Where was I? Let me... Let me double check what I talked about. We talked about the FSU game. Just talked about the Heat. Oh, here we go. Speaking of the NBA, moving on from the Heat for a second. What about the Chicago Bulls? Which, by the way, let me pull this tab back up. Hold on. Because I had this. I had it planned out. I knew I forgot something. Some news about the Bulls. I don't think it's time that they should be losing players, but they are. They got a big game on Sunday, right? The Bulls are back, so I've been hearing, and I'm not doubting that, man. I'm not. But they're losing some big-time players for Sunday night's game tomorrow. And this is not the time to be doing that. You want to keep winning. You want to keep going. You want to keep playing. They're playing a good team in the Timberwolves, who are 26-14 at home at the Target Center this year, right? They got quite a few out. They got Nikola Vucevic. How do you say that? DeMar DeRozan, right? Zach LaVine, Matt Thomas, Alex Caruso out for the Bulls. This is not going to be a good look for them, man. They lose three of their best players, in this game. How is this not even a line? How did they not have a line? They've lost 4 straight, too. They're 18-22 on the road. It's a good possibility they slip up. I don't think that they've done anything. Have they clinched? Let me see where they're at here. Chicago Bulls, 45-36, 6 in the Eastern Conference. Oh, they got a playoff berth, so they're good. I mean, they can't really lose that. But, it's still like how do I put this? You going into the playoffs, if you're the Bulls, you want to be careful. You you can't let injuries and lack of talent, lack of players. I shouldn't say lack of talent, just lack of superstar players. You shouldn't let that hold you back if you're the Bulls. You shouldn't, right? Let's double check their injury list here. The injured reserve or whatever. Um, let's see. DeMar DeRozan is out. Zach LaVine, his knee, he's out against the Timberwolves tomorrow night. Nikola Vucevic will at least rest, which this is the season finale, by the way. This is the regular season finale before we get to the playoffs next week. He will rest out against the Timberwolves. Matt Thomas's lower leg. What is with all the leg injuries? Thomas with his lower leg is out Sunday against the Timberwolves. Alex Caruso doesn't say why, but he's out. Kobe White is day-to-day. Lonzo Ball has been out. He'll be out remainder of the playoffs, really the whole season. So, but yeah, I mean, look, the Bulls, and look, even here, I like the Timberwolves in this game too. I don't know what to predict score wise, but D'Angelo Russell, Patrick Beverly is day to day, right? Karl Anthony Towns. It's one of those where both of these teams have players dealing with injuries that are really going to affect the teams. But especially the Bulls, they're losing half their team here. I mean, you got 5 or 6 guys out for tomorrow night's game. That's not good. That's like half your starters. They're on a 4-game losing streak. The Wolves are 3-2 their last 5. Karl Anthony Towns, 9.8 rebounds per game. He leads in points per game, too, for the Timberwolves at 24.6. DeMarco, or did I say DeMarco? Hold on. DeMar, I'm sorry, DeRozan, 27.9. Counted 28 points per game. That's still higher than Karl Anthony Towns. 76. I'm not really going to make a prediction on this game. If you guys want to in the comments, you can. All I'll say is that I think the Bulls are screwed for tomorrow, honestly. I really don't see them doing too much. Man, who needs to step up for them? Who do they turn to? They're still good. They're in the playoffs. But once they get to the playoffs, once they get there, man, I mean, you're talking, you're going to have to face the Raptors or the Sixers or the Bucks. If you face the Bucks automatically, you're done. You're dead meat. Giannis, Bledsoe, you're going to get killed. You're going to get hurt. That's a 600 team. 51-30, the Bucks are. Man, I don't know what else to say other than the Bulls are in a position that, they're in a good position, but they have some bad qualities going into it with the injuries and with what's holding them back. And what's kind of been the issue that they've lost 4 straight. They got to turn it around. Guys have to step up, and they got to do what they got to do, And if you're Chicago, Billy Donovan's the head coach. Dick Klein's the founder, and you got Mark Eversley, who's the GM, right? Whoever makes the GM makes the cuts and tells the head coach, yeah, this is okay or whatever. Well, let's just stick to the head coach. Billy Donovan's got to get his guys ready and say, hey, I know we're down like 3 or 4 starters, but we can't let that hold us back. We're coming off, a tough loss to the Heat. We're coming off a loss to the Bucks. We're coming off the Celtics and the Hornets. Not bad teams, but we can't use excuses. The Bulls can't use excuses. Billy Donovan's the head coach. He's got to get it together and see what he can do. So, anyway. 4 straight, 3-7 in the last 10 games. It's crazy. Anyway, I said my 2 cents on all this. I'm going to drop the StreamYard link. If anyone wants to come in, feel free to, man. Let's hang out. Let's talk. Oh, what's up? Let me check the chat. What's up, Traveling Fools and SEC Dog, Hokey, Crimson Brave, what's up? What's that say? Tater's offense still sucks. If they get in the playoffs, Bama OSU will kill them. I agree. I don't think it's worse, though. I just think that it's still at that point where, well, first off, I give Clemson a lot of credit for their defense. I just think that they do have to get it together on offense. What's up, Nate? So, don't forget the Unprofessional Sports Show. Yeah. Don't forget the Unprofessional Sports Show tomorrow night featuring Chess Hall coming back on, at least for tomorrow night's show. We'll be here. Yes, sir. This was a good one. I was proud of this show here. Love you, Chess, if you're watching. I agree. I'm excited to see Cade Klubnik for Clemson, honestly, Crimson. I think that's the guy they need to go with. Give him a chance at the offense. I don't think DJ's the answer either. I'm not saying he's terrible. I'm not saying he's bad. I just, how do I put it? I don't know what it is. It's just not working. Anyway. What's up? Sorry, kind of tired today. What's up, Elijah Allen? You always go with youth when the competition is close. You kind of do want to work with the younger guys, I guess. Klubnik doesn't look ready either. We'll know more after 4 games. That does seem to be a pattern, right? I mean, they did that with Trevor Lawrence and what was his name? Mizzou guy. Kelly Bryant. That's right. Yeah, they did that with Kelly Bryant and Trevor Lawrence. Remember, I mean, going into the season, you knew that one guy was just better than the other, but you still went the more experienced route. You gave it 5 games. You basically gave in a month into the season. And then you go with whoever is more talented. So more development time. Oh yeah, I see. I see what you're saying. Let me put this together. Elijah Allen. What's up, Jordan Bowman? How you doing, man? Good to see you. Haven't seen you over here in a while, Jordan. But yeah, Elijah Allen, I think, is making a good point. He said you always go with youth when the competition's close. More development time. Yeah. I guess you want to give them as much reps as possible. And if it's close competition, oh, it's so close, even though this guy's a 5-star and whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like, who cares? If your young guy is close to your starter or more experience, then he's probably close to being ready to be out there on the field. Therefore, I say give him a chance. Jordan says, holy hell, we have 20 players out. Y'all take it too much from the spring. That's true. I'm not saying anything. Crimson Brave started this. Saban and Dabo are not afraid to bench their quarterbacks who aren't getting it done and rolling with younger, better players. I agree. No, Saban and Dabo are tough. I know we make jokes about Dabo being a crybaby or complaining, but he still is a great head coach and knows how to coach in like in-game situations. Um, yeah, he'll look. Sorry, he did that. Think about it, he did it with Kelly Bryant. He did it with Kelly Bryant. You know, I mean, and he was asked after the championship when he beat us. He said, "Well, we looked in 5 games, and I look at Trevor. He was just the best player. He was the better player on the team, right? Kelly Bryant wasn't getting anything done for you guys over at Clemson. He wasn't doing anything. So what do? You're going to bench him and go with the true freshman. Oh, but he's a freshman. Why would you start a freshman? He was a better player. He was the best player. I mean, he was. You take a chance. Coaches, here's the thing. Leaders and great coaches don't want to put a guy out on the street or in football terms, put him on the bench or whatever. You don't want to do that, but you don't want to let your team down, right? So you want your team to be the best it can possibly be, right? Part of that is putting the best players on the field. That's part of it. Dabo knows it. Saban's the same way. Look at what Saban did with Tua and Jalen. As much as it killed me as a fan, because it's not that I wanted, I just didn't want to see Jalen benched. I had nothing against Tua. I know I've made jokes here and there. He is injury prone. Screw it. But he's talented. He's doing great with the Dolphins there. I love him. Love you, Tua. Love Tua. Love him. I didn't want to see Jalen get benched. Nobody wanted to see Jalen get benched. But we wanted to see Tua starting. Unfortunately, you can only have one guy out there. It's not, this guy's not good enough. Ugh, sorry. It's that this other guy's better. Elijah Allen says, as a Tennessee fan, I always had the utmost respect for Jalen Hurts. Yeah, man, what a class act. He should have left right away after that Georgia game. He didn't. He stuck around. Ugh. Yeah. Jordan says, DJ had some really promising plays. Deep accurate throw on the run would not have happened last year. Dabo also took a touchdown away from him on a BS sack. Yeah, I think I saw that part. Yeah, no. I mean, look, I understand. I mean, y'all are not saying that. Like DJ's not a bad quarterback, but there were some questionable calls and decisions where where you just kind of wonder, like, what do you do? Anyway, why don't I drop the link? I'll get you guys on. I don't care. I love y'all. I love getting y'all on. Anyone's welcome.
I beat Charlotte once, but not twice. I tapped her out, but not when it counted, and that's on me. Next step for you. I want a rematch. But not a regular match.
Worry about Saban not making the right QB decisions. You'll definitely not see him start Paul Tyson over Brian. I forgot all about that, man. Hey, really, I think, and I wrote something on this today on the website. Really, Crimson, I think our competition is who's QB2. Um, I think it's Milrow. But Tyson, look, Bryce is going to be gone after this year, most likely. If he goes pro, then he's like, y'all duke it out. Jalen Milrow or Ty Simpson, whoever, I guess, for the quarterback of Alabama. So, I am exhausted. But I love talking with you guys, so I won't laugh, but. Have to say, hearing really good things coming out of Tennessee spring practice, with players putting on some weight and such. 10 wins are a possibility. They have to be perfect, but I've heard some good things about Tennessee too. But I'd slow your roll on 10 wins. Pretty excited going into 22. Honestly, and I'm not trolling, I do think that Tennessee fans should get a little excited. The thing about 10 wins, though, that I don't think that's happening. Miro is next, dude. Simpson isn't one of those stars who he'll ready right off the bat like two, or Bryce probably going to have to wait about 3 years before he. Yeah, I got you. I agree. Teams' real spring games scrimmages happen leading up to the spring game. The televised ones aren't using the full playbook, basic plays. Yeah. The most you take out of spring games is who. Oh, the who's battling for the open starting jobs and getting a look at the new guys. What's up, Jordan? How you doing, bro?
What's up, Ballard? How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, man. Uh, pretty eventful day.
Yeah. A little bit of football is back, I guess. That's a good thing.
Right, right. But yeah. I mean, I was saying in the comments, it's hard to take a whole lot from these spring games just because of how much, especially Clemson's, with so many players out, and you know
Yeah.
they had to split the teams, so we weren't starting our best five on the offensive line. And this defensive in our defense is going to be phenomenal this year. So,
Oh, I
you,
agree.
so it was going to be they were kind of fighting an uphill battle. I still think DJ probably has the upper hand. So we're just gonna have to see.
Yeah, that's something I didn't think of was, you got to think of what you were going up against today was your own defense. So, I
Right.
mean, go play a team like Charlotte or a lower tier ACC team. And I'm not trying to dog like their scheduling or anything, but like
Well,
if you take a chance on the lower tier defenses for your offense, whoever's at quarterback, maybe that's really where you kind of see it take its toll and just see where they're at when they start the season.
right. Yeah, we're gonna know more about what this team is made of, and I mean, we're gonna get some guys back. We're gonna have some. We have some, some of the freshmen that are enrolling in summer that are gonna be there. A couple I'm excited about. So I think the goal really just for this offseason is to get healthy. I still think this. I mean, this team can get back to the Clemson standard. Winning the ACC, making the playoff, competing for a
Yeah.
national championship, especially with this defense. So I think it just comes down to you know guys staying healthy and not not losing
Yeah,
everybody.
and like I said too, I mean, you start the season. You guys started on a Monday. This will be cool. Labor
Oh
Day
yeah,
Monday at Georgia Tech. Well, Georgia Tech is Georgia Tech. We'll
they're
see
gonna
what
be
they
pretty.
do.
I think they're
Uh,
gonna be pretty bad. they,
yeah,
they they lost
Furman.
a lot in the transfer portal.
Yeah, well, thanks for Jameer Gibbs. But
Yeah, that was about all they had going for them.
Louisiana Tech could have some good teams, but I don't know about them going up against Clemson. But at
Right.
Wake Forest, NC State, I'm hearing some interesting things about. Like I mentioned, the Florida State game today looked pretty interesting. Really, I think your first true test will be probably at a team like Boston College or at Florida State, in my opinion. If not, maybe your first test is all the way at Notre Dame. But I think you guys are
You
set
see,
up.
I'd go earlier than that. I think the first true test. I mean, Wake Forest is going to be good. It's probably still
Yeah,
going to be fine, but NC State, I think, is probably is probably the test. They beat us last year. Um, they return a lot. They have a lot coming back. Devin Leary is probably a top 10, top 15 quarterback in the country. A lot of
right.
people don't know his name, but he's really good. And they basically lost nobody. They lost their running, like their two running backs and their left tackle, but pretty much everybody on defense is coming back. Um, and so I think a lot of people are picking NC State. Well, not well, a decent chunk of people are picking NC State to win the division. So
Yeah.
I think whoever wins, I think that game is important for deciding who wins the Atlantic. Um, I can't stand Dave Doran, so I hope we beat him by 50. But I think
Yeah,
that
I was just fixing to say too. I can't really stand him too much either, but I mean he's been a good head coach really anywhere he's gone. I mean, and he played tight end at Drake in the '90s, but at NC State, I mean he's like 64-49. So
yeah,
um,
he's kind of gotten it going these last couple, and he's had some good teams in the past. He's had some good quarterbacks, Ryan Finley, Jacoby Brissett. Um,
yeah, man,
but
yeah,
he's kind of been criticized he's been there a while and he hasn't really gotten over the hump. He beat Clemson for the first time last year.
Oh, was that one of your losses?
Yeah, we
Okay,
lost on the road at NC State.
yeah.
Um, in double overtime. That was earlier in the year.
See anybody, and I'm actually going to stick up for Clemson here, but don't count a win over Clemson last year because that was like one of those.
Well,
Oh, seriously,
it
we're
counts.
playing again?
I mean, it counts. It was a win.
Yeah,
They deserved to win. I mean, they probably should have beat us worse than they did. Our defense like played over 90 snaps in that game. Our offense couldn't put a drive together. It was amazing that game stayed close. And
yeah.
that was the game where we lost a ton of people. Brian Bursey tore his ACL in that game.
Oh, yeah. I think I
It,
remember seeing that.
it was that probably that game specifically did a number on us because they're so good on the lines of scrimmage. So they kind of beat us up. Our defense, did what they could, kept us in the game, and I mean, it came down to that final play in overtime. DJ throws it to Justin Ross, and it kind of looked like Ross could have caught it. Who knows? The angle was weird.
Your
And
second half, the second half of the season, which really I think it's more so just the half after the bye week. That's a really interesting stretch. I mean, I don't really know too much about Louisville, but I mean, you go to Notre Dame. Um, Miami is, I mean, they're Miami, but a new head coach in Mario Cristobal, you just never know.
right.
And then South Carolina, honestly, I do like. I love Shane Beamer. I think he's got good character. I love hearing his press
I do
conference.
too. Yeah.
Spencer Rattler, I mean, they've used the transfer portal. They brought some guys in. I think South Carolina could be a little bit of a surprising team this year. Maybe at the very least having a better record than we think. I mean, if they go like a 7-5, 8-4 or something and surprise some people, that'd be a heck of a season for them.
I agree. I mean, because they kind of overachieved last year. A
Yeah,
lot of
they
people
did.
didn't pick them to make a bowl game, and they
And they
finished
won it.
7-6.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that second half of the schedule is definitely it's kind of it's trickier than some people might realize. I mean, obviously at Notre Dame is the big one, but Louisville gave us fits last year. That game came down to a goal line stand. Malik Cunningham tripped. He fell down on the final play, and what was it?
If he doesn't do that, who knows, man? That might be another loss for you guys or something. I'm not saying that exactly, but I mean, you guys did have some wins last year, and I'm not going to say that you got lucky, but there were some close wins.
Yeah, there were some close wins. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even think about it. Even the Georgia game, if not for that pick six, I mean, maybe you could have pulled that out. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't like talking about that one, Ballard. Let's just wrap that. That was man. That game feels like ages ago now. But yeah, I think at Notre Dame, obviously that's a game you'd like to win. It'd be nice for DJ to. Assuming DJ is still the starter, but he might not be. But it'd be nice for DJ to get his revenge. The last time he went to Notre Dame, he put up,
that was when you
yards.
had Trevor. Wasn't that hit like his first career starter, like his second because of COVID?
Yeah. So he threw for like 400 yards, broke the record for most yards thrown against Notre Dame. I missed that DJ. I hope that DJ comes back this year. But anyway, I think that Notre Dame game is one you'd like to have. Louisville, it's nice that you get them at home. I think Scott Satterfield is coaching for his job this season, and he's Malik Cunningham is coming back for his like 10,000th season at quarterback. And I mean, I think Malik Cunningham is really good, and he doesn't really get a whole lot of national love because of the team he plays for. But he is a lot of the reason Louisville had won some of the games they won last year. His ability with his leg, his athleticism, and he's gotten better as a passer each year.
You think he tries too hard to be Lamar?
No, I don't think it's just no. I think I mean the offense just runs through him like that, and he's not the athlete Lamar was, but he he's definitely a really good player, and one of the more underrated quarterbacks. Just because the team around him hasn't always been great, the defenses haven't always been great, and I question some of the recruiting. Scott Satterfield, he's kind of underperformed there a little bit. So I think Satterfield is coaching for his job, because he has an experienced quarterback. He's brought in some transfers. I think that they have a new athletic director now. So, if he doesn't perform, he could be gone. So, and then obviously the Miami game is important. with Mario Cristobal. I think it's more important from a recruiting standpoint because Miami's getting a lot of love, and it like nationally recruiting wise, and Clemson gets a lot of players. There's a lot of recruits from South Florida, so I think it's important for Clemson to win that game and kind of reassert themselves as
Yeah.
at the top of the ACC in that sense. So
Oh yeah, and I still think that they are, but like you said, I mean, I think especially with a guy like Cristobal going to Miami, it's definitely changing the game for recruiting down there. So for Clemson to go down and hopefully win that game, from like in your perspective as a fan, winning a game like that, no matter who you are, I mean, could definitely play a big role in recruiting.
yep.
Yeah,
So what when is Alabama's spring game?
we got it next Saturday,
Next
the
Saturday.
8A.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are your expectations for that? Like what are you looking to see? What
Um. Overall, I would say this year I want to see us just be very consistent on defense. And I know I said some things this past year about Bryce. I do think he's a great quarterback. I think he deserved the Heisman, of course. The bad offensive games were not necessarily his fault, and that's where I get to this point of you know uh, the offensive line has got to step up
that
and
sounds
just
familiar?
be consistent. It's got to be well built. They got to protect the quarterback because there were some games where it worked and some games where it didn't. And quite honestly, I was kind of pissed about that, you know. And I just hope that basically consistency on defense, getting off the field on third down there, which Nick Saban preaches about a lot to his team, and then consistency with the offensive line. And I think this team could go a long way.
Yeah, I kind of had to agree with you there because especially the pass protection wasn't always great, and they also running the ball was a challenge at times too.
Yeah,
So
it was.
just kind of improving in all facets there. Because I mean, obviously, you guys have talent. Bama's recruited the offensive line position, as well as pretty much anybody. So
Yeah.
I think it is Doug. I don't remember. Is Doug Moroney still the offensive line coach?
Yeah, I think he still is. Actually, let me see. No,
No, he's
we
with the
still
Saints.
have Bill O'Brien. We
Yeah,
brought in, hold on, offensive line coach. We brought in Eric Wolford.
where is he from?
Let's see.
Oh, that's right. He's from Kentucky. I forgot about that. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
he
Yeah.
was the offensive line coach.
Kentucky offensive line coach.
All right.
Yeah, he's replacing Marone. We still got Bill O'Brien as the coordinator. And
Well,
as
that's a good
far as
ad.
I'm concerned, I don't think Saban has fired Pete Golding despite the DUI that he had a couple months ago.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't fire him over that, especially since Alabama's defense. I mean, Golding has gotten a lot of flack, but the Alabama defense has improved each year, and he's been there. The Alabama's defense was, I think was pretty underrated last year. For
Oh, I think so.
um,
I
so
wonder if he just went out drinking and driving one night and then Saban went to go bail him out and said, "Look, man, I get we lost 33-18, but man, you got to get over this."
yeah, yeah, he didn't take that national championship loss too good, but
Nah.
yeah, it happens to the best of us. Um,
Yeah.
I don't have a DUI, but
No, me neither.
but yeah, that's gonna. I mean, I think I mean Kentucky's offensive line was really strong last year, so getting their offensive line coach is a pretty big deal, I think. So you would hope to see some improvement there.
Yeah, and especially this year we do bring. I mean, you got to think we lost like our key center after the national title in
Yeah.
2020, so we really lost all our guys there. We bring a lot back with like the Brockmeyer twins, J.C. Latham on the line. There's a lot that they bring back on the offensive line.
Yeah.
Who else did we lose? We lost Dickerson. We lost Leatherwood from 2020. So we
Mhm.
lost any guys that we had that made the offensive line. Um,
You're
we
losing Evan
lost
Neal
after the
too.
2020 season. So last year we were pretty young anyway. We bring them back. There's no excuses. They have the experience. They've been there. Um, Hopefully we can get it turned around with the new coordinator. So what's up, LW?
What's going on, fellas?
Not much,
What's
man.
up,
Roll
LW?
Tide.
Yes, sir.
Roll
So, ju-
tears.
so
What do you think about our O line this year, man?
who, me?
Yeah.
I have no idea until I see him play.
There you
I
go.
mean, you got a new right tackle and a new left tackle, so and they're not even sure who they are yet. So that's a
Yeah.
big mystery. You might get some idea at the spring game, but
You think you think Alabama will? I mean, I don't expect them to, but you think Saban would look for it would look to the portal for any?
If these guys aren't working out, maybe, but he's not one to go into the portal too much. I know they brought a lot in here, but like this year, but
I forget his name. But they're looking at a Vanderbilt kid
Mm.
who's got some experience. I can't remember. Maybe you can look it up, Ballard. I can't remember his name.
is it O line? Who is
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah.
Amarius Mims from Georgia just is expected to enter the portal. So, although I some people think I've heard some people link him to Miami. So, but he's going to be a pretty highly coveted guy. Um, he was a tackle out of high school, but I think Georgia was playing him at guard
Yeah.
mostly. So
Yeah, we had the number 1, number 2 rated Brockemeyer and J.C. Latham.
Yeah.
They
Well,
were
both
fresh.
the Brock Myers were pretty highly recruited, but especially I think the 5-star was Tommy.
Yeah, but that's the thing about recruiting. Some people don't get is some dudes are ready and some dudes aren't. They obviously weren't ready this year because when Chris Owens got injured at right tackle, they didn't bring either of those guys in. They brought in what was his name, George, that Houston kid. I think he's like a 3 or 4
Oh
star.
yeah.
So apparently
Yeah.
that kid was ahead of those two. How do you like all the overreaction to the Clemson spring game, Jordan?
oh, I love it. I love it. Just the. I mean, from internally from the fan base, people were writing off DJ, saying Cade is the starter. The offensive line isn't good. The offense is gonna be the same as it was last year. I'm like, y'all got to relax. We 20, literally 20 players, scholarship players out. We had our walk on running backs, getting most of the reps outside of Phil Moffa.
Right.
And the wide receivers are hurt. Dakari Collins went down with an injury. I'm glad he's okay. It was just he's just gonna be sore for a little bit apparently, so that's good.
Yeah.
'Cause he's a true sophomore this year, and he's already one of our best blocking receivers. I mean, he's great at the catch point too, but
Oh, here you go. Demetrius Davis is a quarterback that transferred from Auburn to UTSA, so automatic upgrade for him. Anyway, carry on.
yeah. But but yeah, Dakari Collins is already one of our best blocking wide receivers. So I really wouldn't want him to lose him because that was something we missed last year. But you know, I didn't expect an offensive explosion. It kind of was what it was. I saw some good plays from both quarterbacks. Um, the offensive line was inexperienced. They're going against the deepest defensive line in the country this season. I mean, I don't know what I don't know what people expected. We were starting, a couple of our freshmen. Colin Sadler was at left tackle on one. He's a true freshman. And he looked like going against Miles Murphy and Tyler Davis. I'm like, well, I mean, he got whooped
Yeah.
a lot. He looked like a true freshman. So I don't know what people expected, but there's the talent is there on this offensive line. We have a new offensive line coach. We have several. I mean, I think we're really good at tackle. I think our starters, Jordan McFadden and Walker Parks, I think they could be, first team All ACC type tackles. So I think just figuring out the interior. Will Putnam has been playing center a lot this season, this spring, and from the practice reports, he's been phenomenal. So I think just figuring out the interior and knowing what the best five is going to be is probably the biggest thing. But Clemson fans and non-Clemson fans alike overreacting. Expecting some kind of offensive explosion. We're running a vanilla offense too. It's not like we were throwing a bunch of 5-yard out, hitches and out routes. A lot. We took a couple shots downfield. Some of them hit, some of them didn't. It was what it was. So I cared. I just am glad that we got out of it pretty much unscathed. Last season, Tyson Pumachan, our backup quarterback, tore his Achilles. So,
That's all I do when I watch the spring game. I just hold my breath the whole time.
Yeah, right.
For no injuries.
Yeah, because it'd be the worst time to have the injuries as the spring if you think about it, because if it is something serious, then they can't even practice when they gotta go practice, and even if they can return in the season, they didn't have much time to recover. So
That's another thing about the freshmen in the spring game. They've only been on campus for 2 months. Like 3 months ago, they were playing high school football.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these early enrollees are supposed, are technically seniors in high school that graduated early. Like,
and you might have like Alabama. We've had freshmen who don't get on the practice field till August.
Yep.
And they end up contributing over the guys who started in the spring. And the guys who played today, they still have the whole summer workout program and the rest of the spring.
There's a lot of football, and there's a lot of prep period in between now and the first game. People, that's why you watch the spring game. The spring game is really about is just kind of seeing where players are, maybe in the depth chart. Sort of, you kind of get a decent feel, where some players are. Based on what maybe the too deep is going to look like, which even in our case is kind of weird because we had so many guys out that are probably going to be in the too deep. EJ Williams, especially wide receiver, and EJ Williams, Bo Collins, Will Shipley, Kobe Pace. None of those guys played. Several other guys on defense. So it's always you got to take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only thing we have.
So we lost some guys, but we brought a lot in. Like, I'm excited to see. First off, I'm hearing a lot of good things about Jahmyr Gibbs from Georgia Tech. Yep. I'm also hearing a lot. I'm excited for the defense this year as a whole, but we brought in a 5-star from LSU and Eli Ricks. And then, let's see, there was one more that stood out to me. Oh, Burton. Even Burton from Georgia. I mean, I'm
I
excited to
kind of
see
forgot
him.
about him.
Yeah.
You got to think
I
that's
think
that's
I think that's one of those guys. And I mean, obviously, something was working with Stetson last year, but like, you imagine him working with Bryce Young and what they got at Alabama with Bill O'Brien, that's been there and done it for a while and just knows how to run an offense completely. I mean, Burton's got some good hands and some speed on him.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm pretty much looking. What I'm going to be looking at for Alabama spring game is who are they going to put at the tackle positions for the number one offense and the combination of receivers we got out there.
Yeah, because you got to think who's the one he caught? Oh, in the Iron Bowl, he got the game tying Ja'Cory Brooks. I'm excited for someone like him. And then one that stands out is JoJo Earl, who I've heard a lot of people say is like Waddle 2.0 because his speed is electric, and that he should be used on like the special teams and everything. So, and what's
Yeah,
great is like all the young receivers. I mean, there's really not a whole lot of names because we're still losing. I mean, we're coming off losing Waddle and Devontae Smith. Now we're losing Mechie and Williams to the draft. So, and I think Slade Bolden's gone too.
yeah.
But there's a lot of young talent that you can move around and use in many different ways on special teams or the offense, and it'd just be pretty cool to see what Saban wants to do there.
yeah, we're kind of. I mean, nothing against Slade Bolden. You know, he was a solid player and everything, but you know, Christian Leary had to go and be the third string running back. So
Yeah,
you got JoJo Earl, Christian Leary, and Aaron Anderson as freshmen
yeah.
coming in for the kind of that spot, which should be an upgrade. I would think, as far as speed, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I just noticed oh, I think Clemson will need to rely heavily on the run. Yeah, Hummus. I think. I mean, Clemson has always been good when they've been able to establish the run. You know, the past couple of years, it's felt like we've had to pass to set up the run. So you know, getting back to that is important. You know, we have some really talented running backs. You
Wow.
know, so
Look at that vertical here. This is JoJo Earl. Look at this jump as he has to go up and get that there. Man.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm not worried about. I'm not really.
Oh my God. Look at that acceleration. Waddle 2.0. I'm telling you, man. He's got some speed on him.
you know,
Oh man.
the elusiveness is there. Obviously, the run after catch, and he just hits a second gear.
Yeah, those rack yards are gonna eat up at Bama. That is if that truly is a guy that we're gonna try to invest in, because I think it should be.
Yeah, he's just the guy you get out in space, and you know you don't even really need him running. I mean, I
Right.
think he could eventually develop into a really polished route runner, but really you don't even you just get him the ball out in space and let him work.
Look at this. What are those spin moves? He's literally juking out everybody.
I think one of our best guys isn't even on campus yet. Shaz.
Preston?
Yeah,
I've heard of him. Yeah, man. He looks good.
he's working out
You
with
just
Devontae Smith
you
right
just
now.
recruited him, right? Like he's already recruited. He just hasn't made it to campus.
Yeah, he's a fall guy.
Yeah. So he moves in motion. They do a bunch of flea flicker reverses there. Wow. I mean, he's trying to get away from like 4 different defenders all at once, and it's incredible.
I don't know
I like
where
this
did he
guy.
play at?
This is at let me see.
It's in Texas.
Aledo, Texas.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is from Max Preps, by the way, too. But yeah, he's gonna be pretty good, man.
I mean, 2022 for Alabama is pretty simple. It's all about the offensive line.
Yeah. I mean, all you got to do, and I understand Bryce is great, but I mean, he was rattled a couple times with pressure, and I don't care what quarterback it is. And Jordan, I'm sure you could say the same for like DJ or Trevor. A quarterback needs O line, no matter who he is or how talented. Even Tom Brady, like if we could just get the offensive line, you give Bryce a little extra time. I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't need to have pressure in his face because that's part of being a quarterback. That's part of the game. And you can only hold on to a defensive back so long. But if you just let him kill some more time in the pocket, make the read, and let the receivers get open, I think we're driving the ball downfield. We're back to scoring maybe 40, 50 points every game. Who knows?
Yeah, that's definitely the that's kind of the the make or break, because I think the defense is going to be one of the best in the country. Just with everything you guys bring back, the defense is steadily, I think, has steadily improved under Golding. So
Yeah, I asked. I was talking with Steven Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine, and I asked him, like, who's a defensive player that nobody's talking about that we should. But he brought up Dallas Turner because I know
Yep.
we keep talking about Will Anderson, but if you want to talk about on the other side of the edge is Dallas Turner, who's got great length and speed and everything. So. Yeah, our defense this year is going to be stacked and loaded, and we even bring back Kool-Aid and Jordan Battle in the secondary. So yeah,
I love Jordan Battle. I always go to bat for my fellow JBs, Jordan Bs.
there you go.
So, no, but Jordan Battle is really. I think he's probably one. I think he's one of the smarter, smartest players that Saban has had in recent years. Just from an IQ, I think he's very talented. I think he sees the field well, as a safety. So he's a good guy to have. I like the Dallas Turner pick, because he really came on late in the season. And didn't he have he had like 6 or 7 sacks in like the last five games or so. I don't remember what the stat was.
Yeah, he played a big role, I think, against Cincinnati, from what I remember, and a little bit against Georgia the first time around. Yeah, he really picked it up halfway through the season. The big thing about all that is like when you have those moments where you see those guys that rise up on your defense or even on the offense late in the season, the bigger question, it's not can they really do this? It's more so how can they carry it over to the next season? How can they get better and just like because you hope what you see late in the season from your team and the improvements you hope is what starts off, I guess, next year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping with Clemson's offensive line. It seemed like they turned a corner similar to, like that last year. They came on. We were getting into the 30s finally. Scoring more points, running the ball particularly a lot better. So you hope that you always hope that kind of carries over. And I mean, ideally, you want them to start even better because they've gone through that off season of workouts in practice and stuff. So
Yeah.
especially since we lost nobody on the off. I mean, the entire offensive line is back. We didn't lose anybody.
The UT. Oh, Tennessee. Yeah.
It was competitive for 3 quarters,
Yeah,
three or
right.
4
I
quarters,
mean,
and then it kind of got away from them.
that's how the rivalry is, though. I mean, yeah, there's some blowouts, but I mean, um, it is a competitive rivalry in ways to start out, but like Tennessee just can't like. There's been a couple times they've come close. Like, nice try.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I mean, it was like, um,
Well, they had a lot of bodies that they had to replace in a very short time last year.
yeah,
They'll probably have a lot more continuity this year, and
yeah.
you know,
Well, what happened in that Tennessee game though was like, I think it was 21-14 at half. Then in the third quarter, they each only got maybe a field goal or maybe it was a touchdown. But like I know Alabama, I think they outscored Tennessee 28-7 in the fourth quarter alone.
yeah.
Is what it was. I mean, the offense just said, "Yeah, we'll run it up on you a bit."
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like it was slowly pulling on a rubber band. Like Alabama was applying pressure, but Tennessee wasn't, and then it just kind of, you
Yeah.
finally get to that point. The elasticity. I can't speak English. Elasticity, stops.
Yeah.
You kind of lose it, and then it just kind of snaps. But it, I mean, it was a competitive game. I mean, I was pretty, shocked at how competitive that game was for a little while. And then it just they had some really bad. If I remember correctly, I watched that game. They had some really bad lapses in the secondary in that fourth quarter. A lot of
Yeah.
missed assignments. Led to big
I
plays.
I think, man, honestly, and the LSU game surprised me because that was only like
Oh yeah.
21-13. I mean, I get like if I get it being a little competitive, but I mean that was like the opposite of Tennessee Bama. That one was close, but then nobody pulled away. I mean, it just kind of stayed there, and Alabama's defense came through in the end when it needed to.
yeah, that's just one of those Bama games last year that just didn't make sense. Like Bryce Young almost has 400 yards passing,
Right.
and you only get 20 points. It's just one of
That's part of,
many games
you know
last year that
what
didn't make
though,
sense.
is that if you think about it and look back, isn't that kind of part of what that rivalry is built on though? Is like you can still have like 100, 200 yard game on offense and still like you're still not going to find much time to score because the defenses will shut you down in the end.
Yeah,
I mean, that's kind of the LSU Bama rivalry right there. It's always been built on defense outside of the 46-41 type. We don't need to get into that, but
yeah. I mean, one of my favorite Tennessee Alabama games was in the 2000s when we won 6-3. But it was a great game.
yeah. I like the good old Rocky Block with Terrence Cody. And then I did like the one LSU game where we got revenge in the title and we shut them down 21-0.
What about your Clemson, Jordan? It's funny, everybody ready to jump off the Clemson train and how bad the offense was last year.
Oh yeah.
And after all of that, they still won 10 games.
Yeah, it was. It's kind of remarkable. And it was kind of because Dabo said recently that team overachieved, based off
Right.
of which you you hear that initially and you're like, what? Because that wasn't the expectation. Wasn't 10 wins. The expectation was win the ACC, go to the playoff, compete for a championship.
Right.
But I think with all the attrition that this team suffered and all that, a lot of teams would have quit. We started 4-3. We lost all three of our games within like the first half of the year. And it would have been really easy with how many players went down. I think we had, I think it was like 45 or something, like 45 different players started a game for Clemson last season. And so it was it was really trying. It's not something that Clemson has had to deal with in the past. And, they've had injuries, but it's never been a year where it's just kind of piled up on them like that. So it was different. It was a new challenge, but I think they responded well. I think the offensive line improved. The defense won kept us in a lot of those games.
Now that as well, just so they can rank us outside the top 4. Or what
Did you ever see what Uncle Lou made when he was talking about Dabo and he made up that term "step on rake disease"?
Oh yeah. Step on rake disease. Yeah.
So, like, do you like? Surely you don't like it as a Clemson fan, but like, do you kind of agree in ways about Dabo crying about stuff? Like,
I mean, I think I mean I wouldn't call it crying. I mean I don't see some of I think some of his criticisms about some of the things that are going on in college football. I don't take it as crying. He said stuff in the past that I've disagreed with, but I've never seen it as crying. I mean if Dabo cries, then Nick Saban has cried. Ryan Day has cried. Kirby Smart has cried. I mean, all of these big name head coaches at elite programs that that have talked in recently about a lot of the changes in college football. I think a lot of it is. I mean, I don't see it as crying. I mean, I don't have a problem with somebody talking about what they care about within their profession. It's that's part of their job as head coaches is advocating for the best interests of their program.
of course.
And Nick Saban has complained about a lot of the same stuff Dabo has.
Yeah, right. So, I think a lot of people it's kind of easy to and it's kind of just what's popular is to to read something Dabo says and immediately dismiss it or challenge it or because I got into some arguments today with some people on Twitter about it because some article came out and a lot of Twitter journalists posting out of context quotes and twisting his words and stuff, and so it is what it is. Me personally, I just gotta I just gotta learn to stop engaging with some of those people, but it is what it is. At this point, I don't think I don't think Dabo is going to change his the way he does things for anybody just because people want him to. That's just not who he is. He's never done something just because somebody wants him. People say he should do it. If he'll do it, if it's something he thinks genuinely benefits the program and the way he wants to do things. I mean, you can call that hubris, pride, whatever it is, but you don't. He hasn't had the success he's had on accident. He hasn't fallen ass backwards into success. The way he the way he's done things has produced the greatest era in Clemson football history. So,
Oh yeah.
If Dabo would if it wasn't for Saban, Clemson's run would be rivaled by nobody in college football.
Oh,
Within the last 10 years. So it is what it is.
What's up, Elijah Allen? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Just to go off of what you're saying, Jordan. Just my question for you, especially with Clemson, is it seems like Dabo won't adapt. And it's not like a trying to start an argument or anything. Just with the transfer portal, NIL, seems like he has a huge problem with both of those things. I mean, could you see that being his downfall? It just seems like he won't hop on board with stuff like that. And
playoff committee.
I mean, I think some people interpret some of the criticisms he's had about NIL and the transfer portal as he's totally against it. I mean, on the NIL front, Clemson just launched the first, it just became the first athletic program to launch a space solely dedicated to NIL development and stuff. That was that Dabo Sweeney had a part in that. Dabo his stance has always been that he endorses the for players to be able to make money off their name, image, and likeness. He's never been against NIL. He's against pay for play, and he's against using NIL specifically, like enticing players with deals. Like, right. So like if you come to my school, Walmart will give you $500,000 or something. Like he's not about that. His stance is anything that makes the sport more professionalized, because at that point, why not just remove the collegiate model altogether and just let players go to the NFL or play in some of these minor leagues like the USFL and stuff like that, and then go on to the NFL instead. I think Dabo he's still, I mean, you can call him an old school coach, but I think he still cares about what education and stuff like that. And
completely agree. I have the utmost respect for Dabo Swinney, and just the fact that he's more about making young men instead of professional athletes, and I've always respected that from him.
Right.
He's gonna bring in good people, but there's just a few things I don't agree the way he does. Like, if you commit to Clemson, you can't go visit anywhere else. I mean, I think that's a little sideways from what I understand, and maybe I'm wrong in that sense, but that's what I've heard about him.
Well, that is a Clemson policy. I mean, I think some people, I think some people blow that out of proportion, as in, or some people take that as in, well, once you're committed, you're just stuck there and you can't do anything. I mean, all you have to, you are, if you want to take visits, they will say that, okay, that's fine. You just decommit decommit for now. They just don't want you taking visits as a Clemson commit. It doesn't mean you can't. They won't take you back once you've taken your visits, because that has happened before too, and they just don't want you. They just don't want you to take because I think that Clemson wants a commitment to matter. They're pretty stingy with offers. They don't offer a bunch of guys. They take smaller classes. It's kind of a stuck up way of doing it, but I think I think in some ways it's more fair to the athlete, because especially because if I'm a 4-star wide receiver and I get an offer from somebody, and then they're like my dream school, and I try to take them up on it, but then they say no, it's not a committable offer. Then so we want you to wait. Well, what was the point of you offering me? Because they have that just means they have a guy they want more than me. So I think the way that Clemson does it is if you get an offer, it's because the Clemson wants you in their class in their class. There's a reason they don't offer a ton of guys. They don't do the whole committable offer thing. If you get a Clemson offer, and if you get a Clemson offer, that's a big deal.
Of
So
course.
I think that's kind of the philosophy is they want the offer to matter. They want the commitment to matter. And it's worked out. I mean, it's worked for Clemson in the past. Up until they've had a few decommits recently in recent classes, but I think Clemson had went like 5 or 6 cycles before like 2020 without a decommit.
Right.
So it's worked in the past, and Ryan Day, I've heard that Ryan Day is starting to implement that at Ohio State. If he doesn't want his players his commits taking visits if they're committed. So I think I think it's more fair to the school and more fair to the athlete because you're not offering guys offering guys just to offer them, and once they're committed, their spot is secured, and
right.
So but I get why people have problems with it because it's the player, it's the player's choice and all that, and so I get both sides. I get why people have issues with it, but I think there's a valid reason for why Clemson does it.
That now that I've actually heard an explanation, it makes a little bit more sense. I just see it as which I guess is just more of an honesty issue, but I just know there's a few players that'll commit, and they'll go on visits just to recruit other players to come with them.
Right.
It's which because from what I understand, Nico, the guy that just committed to Tennessee, that's what he was doing a lot when he took some extra visits. But I'm actually very excited about that. Now, if he's a bust or not, I mean, just the kids that might follow him to Tennessee is a huge deal.
That's a big deal. Making
that Taven Jackson kid we got in this past class isn't going to lay down for him. No, he's from what I'm saying, he's pretty solid as well. So I'm excited for the future of what's going on over there in Knoxville, but cautiously optimistic because I've been here before. So
yeah,
y'all have every reason to be optimistic. I mean,
if we can get in at least the top 20 defense with the way the offense is running, I think we'll be all right. I know that's asking a lot, but my whole thing was too, and looking back on the season last year, is Josh Heupel had like 60 scholarship players
right
towards the end of the year. I think that was huge.
Yeah,
to do what he did, was big to me.
Think about transfer portal with Clemson. There's teams that like, oh, why doesn't Dabo sign transfer players? Well, people don't realize that the vast majority of the transfer portal is filled with 3-star players.
Right.
It's the vast majority. There's still players sitting in the portal from a year and a half ago that haven't been picked up by anybody. There's very few Jamison Williams, and it's very few to go around. And you don't want to, if you don't feel you need it, you're not just.
You don't just take it. Yeah, you don't just take guys just to take them. If they're not, starting at Clemson caliber players, why are you taking them? So it.
Yeah, Texas took 3 Alabama players because they had holes to fill.
Right.
Tennessee had holes to fill, so they took. So Clemson's never going to take, 7 transfers like some other schools,
Right.
Now, could I ask you a question that if I don't think it's going to happen based off their schedule next year, but if Clemson were to go 8-4, 9-3, does that open up for Dabo to be on a semi-hot seat going into that next year?
No,
they're sold into Dabo is what it is, man. Trust me. He's created. I mean, look, think about it like this, Jordan. How many years did it take Dabo? Well, I guess maybe not a whole lot, but wasn't he like 9-3 or something? He wasn't 10 wins right out the gate, was he?
No, I mean not out the gate. He won 10 games his third full season.
Yeah.
But that was following a 6 and 7 year, and people, a significant portion of the fan base was out on him. So, he turned it. It started with, hiring Chad Morris and revamping the offense. The Taj Boyd, stepping in as the full-time starter. That was, in that 2011 year. As up and down as it was, they won the ACC. Obviously, the Orange Bowl was the Orange Bowl. Don't want to talk about that, but that was kind of. It was still a very positive season. Clemson had, before that season, Clemson hadn't won 10 games since 91, I think. And they hadn't been to the Orange Bowl since the 80s, and they hadn't won the ACC since 1990. Yeah, 90. I think it was 91 too. So it had been like 20 years.
Yeah.
So,
if you've ever heard my song and thought to yourself, I hope Blake Shelton's neck don't come out.
No. It gives it.
But yeah, it wasn't, sunshine and roses and butterflies right off the bat. He took Clemson to the ACC championship game his first full season, and then it was the 6 and 7 year, and then obviously and then he won and then it was, after the Orange Bowl we got Brent Venables, and we know what happened after that. So I going 9-3, 8-4. That would be horrendous. Based on expectation and based on the caliber of the roster. But no, I don't think it would be enough to. Yeah, I think some people would start to question, would definitely question, whether this program can get back to playoff contention, and rightfully so. But I don't. I think Dabo could go 9-3 the rest of his career and probably keep his job.
Right, and I think that's one of the advantages that the ACC coaches kind of have over SEC coaches, because you don't have that. I don't want to say toxicity, but you know what I mean, toxicity of the fan base, where if you ain't competing for a conference championship every year,
right?
You better get the heck out of here. Like,
well, yeah,
you're
right. The SEC invests way more. More schools invest in football in the SEC. There's a lot more passionate fan bases. There's passionate ACC fans, but there's just not. The demand to win at Duke is. Even if you look at a program like, I don't know, Mississippi State, it's not even close. Mississippi State fans have way more investment and involvement in their football program than Duke or Syracuse or take your pick. So it's
you Alabama fans got to be happier than a pig in mud with what's going on down in Auburn right now. They're falling apart. It's getting bad down that way.
Yeah.
I thought Tennessee boosters were bad about running off coaches. Auburn's a hell of a lot worse.
Well, Auburn has the unhealthy view of themselves.
Yeah. Well, what I would say is, from what I understand too, is there was a lot going on behind the scenes with Kevin Steele when he was over there, trying to run off Gus Malzahn, if I'm not wrong in that. But I've heard a lot that Kevin Steele was trying to get Gus Malzahn fired a lot, and there was a lot of a secret agreement with the boosters. I might be wrong, but
I've heard something like that too. I don't know how much truth there is to that, but I don't like Kevin Steele because of his time at Clemson, but
he's the shortest lived Tennessee head football coach we've ever had.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Paid him $1 million to sit there and babysit for a few months.
Y'all remember when Lane Kiffin screwed Tennessee?
I still hate that man. I hope he burns when he pees every time. I hate it. Like, I really do. I mean,
That's a pretty
I
good.
tell you, I'm 25. I started really paying attention to football in about 2008. That was about the last year Tennessee was worth anything. And then Lane Kiffin left in the middle of the night, which I don't know if he would have done good there over the course of the year. I think he probably would have been about like he was at USC. It's hard to, look back, but the signing class he had coming in was looking pretty good. Ed Orgeron, I hope he burns when he pees every time too for what he did. But anyway, just that right there, because when they hired Derek Dooley, is probably the dumbest hire I've ever seen in my life. It's either that or Will Muschamp at South Carolina. It's one of the two.
That's kind of tough because at least Dooley had the. I mean, he had the Dooley last name. Muschamp,
but if his last name would have been Johnson, he never would have been looked at.
Yeah, he never would have been looked at. But Muschamp, I guess you got to give it to Dooley. But Muschamp was pretty bad because South Carolina saw him implode at a better program and thought, we want him. We want that.
Right. Yeah. But Derek Dooley had a losing record at a Group of 5 school. I mean, come on now. I mean, because when Lane Kiffin left, yeah, it would have been a rough first year. But Tennessee was still a pretty desirable job at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, that Ballard was talking about somebody was talking about the Mount Cody block. I don't even want to think about that. I was in middle school when that happened. I was.
Dude, you were in middle school. I was like 7 years old, son.
I was
a bit younger, but I remember watching it with my parents.
Yeah. That and the LSU game when Derek Dooley had too many people on the field basically won the football game. I don't know how you lose it that way, but just the stupidity of that hire. Butch Jones wasn't the worst hire based on the situation. For some reason, Will Muschamp had his number. I don't know why, but he did. But it's just a whole thing. It's been the biggest thing that's destroyed Tennessee over the last 20 years has been administrative incompetence.
Right.
And I trace it all back, not to be the dude that's sitting there blaming Derek Dooley, but that hire is probably what set the program back 10 years. Easy.
Hard to disagree with how everything played out there.
Yeah.
Just a head scratcher.
Yes.
Got the
really
athletic director there.
Yeah, I'm very happy with the athletic director we have now. Looking at the basketball program, the baseball program, everything seems to be trending in the right direction. Football program seems to be at least headed in the right direction. I'm very happy with Danny White and what he's been doing over there in Knoxville, to be honest with you.
I mean, with all those transfers, after the season was over, you had to be happy with it's all positive stuff.
Oh, for sure. I mean, to go to a bowl game with very minimal scholarship players was I was happy with that, and that's one thing that a lot of Tennessee fans are they're a lot like Auburn fans when they have that really high expectations for themselves and want based off of their past and what they've done in the past. But you got to look at where Tennessee's at right now. I mean,
right.
2020 they were decent quarterback play away from being a decent football team. I mean, Jeremy Pruitt was probably the worst football coach ever hired in Tennessee football history. But I've never seen worse quarterback management in my life. But I ain't gonna sit here and talk about Tennessee all night. Nobody wants to hear about Tennessee.
Been to McDonald's lately?
Yeah, well. How do you pay players to still go 3-7? That's my question.
Oh, Jeremy.
That dude was an idiot. I mean, when he got up at the post game, when we got run out of Knoxville by Alabama in 2020 and said, "Well, we're closing the gap." That was my end all be all right there. That was it right there. I was like, okay, come bring in somebody else. Come on now, this guy's an idiot.
Well, unfortunately, you don't know till you hire him. Like, I mean, South Carolina, they fucked up, hiring Muschamp, but
Well,
that,
my
And
whole
Muschamp
mindset
started
was it
out pretty
worked.
well. That's
Yeah.
the thing. The Muschamp era started pretty decent.
but that's the
My
thing.
whole
Muschamp and someone like Pruitt, Jeremy Pruitt has a national championship as a defensive coordinator. Muschamp has a national championship as a defense. You don't know till you hire them if they're just a good coordinator.
Right.
It happens.
and I'd be lying if I didn't tell you I wasn't excited. I mean, you had Philip Fulmer as the AD, which I thought was going to go great, which was wrong. But it was the my whole thought process. Well, it worked for Georgia. It might work for us. And it's just, which I will say Kirby Smart walked into a heck of a lot better situation. And Georgia's been loaded for years and ain't done nothing with it, except for this year, till Kirby came, but that's beside the point.
And Pruitt was a great recruiter at Alabama. He was one of their top recruiters when he was there.
He didn't do a half bad job at Tennessee. He's just paying them out of McDonald's bags.
Yeah.
If he was winning, nobody would have ever heard about that. It was Trey Smith's sister who reported that. I don't know if you remember who Trey Smith is. He was is either guard or tackle at Tennessee.
He's good. He's playing really well.
He was. He's one of he was still in the draft. I think he went 6th round because of his health problem.
He went late. Yeah,
it was his health problem from what I understand.
Really good. Yeah,
but based off of it was his sister that reported all that to the NCAA from what I understand.
Temporarily, when conditions warrant such action.
But come on now. Hey, look. If it had been me, I'd have thrown a turd at Lane Kiffin. All right, I'll tell you.
He's like, who the hell brings mustard to a football game?
Everybody dogs on the Tennessee fan base, and I'll say this in defense of them. You look at what happened to that basketball player's house up, and the fan base got together and put together money. They do a lot of good.
Right.
But Lane Kiffin stirred the pot. Come on now. I mean,
yeah, he did.
That man deserves everything he gets. I hate him. I mean, really, him and Ed Orgeron, I hate them both.
I'm just unable to talk shit about Lane Kiffin because he opened up the offense at Alabama.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I mean, Lane Kiffin might have, and I'm not saying Nick Saban wouldn't have ever figured it out, but Lane Kiffin might have almost saved Nick Saban with just an offensive mindset.
That's why I hired him.
Yeah. I mean, he was very comparable to Kirby. Now, I compare Tennessee a lot to LSU under Lane, or not LSU, Ole Miss under Lane Kiffin right now. Crappy defense first year. I'm hoping the defense is at least improved for next year, but that's kind of where my range is right now. At least entertaining to watch last year.
Yeah.
Wouldn't mind getting an intermediate passing game when you're 4th and 5 and you just kick a field goal to win the bowl game. But I'm not a coach, so I ain't gonna say nothing.
Yeah,
I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. But then again, the officiating in that game was horrendous. That and the Ole Miss game was rough to watch. But it's like when the NCAA ruled they weren't going to do anything about the fake injuries, and Lane Kiffin tweets at Tennessee football. It's just, how is that not a joke?
right.
That people can do that. I mean, I get it. Player safety is the biggest thing, right? If I'm hurt, I'm gonna lay down. Game should stop. That's fine. Players should have to sit out at least the remainder of the series if they're injured. If they feel that need to go down. I mean, that's not that hard to do. Because you shouldn't be able to just lay down when you're getting your ass whooped. That's my whole thing. But it's
it's pretty amazing I still I don't I hate to bring up old wounds, but I just it is amazing how they lost that bowl game. I don't.
Yeah.
It is, well, to me too, and you can go back and look at the say, well, the officiate was horrible. He got into the end zone on that play. But when you have a tight end wrapped up and you let him break free by a tight end on Purdue wrapped up by 3 defenders, and he breaks free for some reason because somebody quit on the tackle when he runs for 40 yards, you can't blame the officiating.
Right.
You really can't. I'll admit that was probably the worst defensive game I've ever seen coached in my life. Now, I will say in the first half of the season, Tennessee's defense wasn't that horrendous. I think
You're
by
right.
the end of the year, the depth started to show up because I think they led the country at one point in tackles for loss, or at least the conference. I think I can't remember his name for the life of me right now. The defensive coordinator over there, I think he coached his butt off last year. Just got to put some more pressure on them, and Kentucky fans want to be like, well, they didn't call that face mask. They converted to like 4th and 23, and they still didn't win the ball game. So I really don't want to hear that, but come on now. But I don't know about South Carolina this year, though. Everybody's pretty hyped up about Spencer Rattler. I think it's going to be about equivalent to Kelly Bryant going to Missouri. But that's just
Oh man,
that's just me.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, but and there's a lot of things that Rattler did at Oklahoma that that didn't really get fixed while he was there, and I think some of that can show up. I think Rattler a lot of times at Oklahoma made a lot of the easy plays way harder than they needed to be, and I think that's why he got benched.
Yeah.
Because
and what he did was against Big 12 defenses. You got to keep that too. You got to take that into account. I mean,
to be fair to the Big 12, they were. I think the defenses in the Big 12, there were some pretty good defense. I think Oklahoma State and Baylor were really good. Iowa State.
I was rooting hard for Oklahoma State in that play in their conference game. I wanted them to win. That'd be cool to see somebody. I just wanted somebody different in the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
But
it would definitely, because I mean, in Oklahoma State they've been one of the more they've been a consistent 9-win team.
That's that guy. It's Mike Gundy, right?
Mike Gundy,
I'm a man. I'm 40 fella.
Yep.
Tennessee tried to hire him a few times. I will say the Jimbo Fisher ran about sliced bread was just about as bad, but
sliced bread.
Yeah, when he's talking about that, you know what I'm talking about when he's talking about the NIL deals and all.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that cracks me up, man. I don't know. Texas A&M, if they don't make at least a run at the SEC West this year, I see it as the bust season.
I think their year is next year. Alabama's losing pretty much their whole defense next year, probably. But this badass, what do they have? 8 5-stars in this class?
Yeah.
You can't really count that in their freshman year. I would say next year.
That's true.
I think 2023 is A&M's their best shot.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to drink a beer to wash this down, but I think Alabama's gonna run the absolute tables next year. I don't think there's anybody that really.
Ohio State. And I hate hyping up Ohio State as much as anybody, but I don't know.
A pissed off Nick Saban and a young team last year just bids bad for the rest of everybody else.
I mean, Ohio State's pissed off too. They lost 2 games. They lost to their biggest rival. Yeah. They're bringing back. They're not bringing back the Heisman winner, but they're bringing back a Heisman finalist.
And
Jim Harbaugh was halfway out the door before they extended him, wasn't he? I didn't think he was going to stick around.
Speaking of, I'll say this too. I know we talk about Ohio State, and I definitely agree with them being the Big Ten favorites, but Michigan does bring a lot back. How do we know they're not going to be fueled because they lost in the playoffs or whatever to Georgia?
Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, and they lost their they lost their defensive coordinator to the Mike McDonald. He went back to the Ravens to coach for Harbaugh's brother John.
They've got a safety and 2 edge rushers who are all taken in like the first 40 picks of the draft.
Yep. Hutchinson, Ajabo, and Hill.
So,
yeah.
Lou said something funny today because Brian Harson's done after this year. There's no way he's coming back. If they went out and hired Butch Jones from Arkansas State, I think I'd die.
I don't know, man. Knowing Auburn, they're just everybody's thinking they're going to be terrible. Knowing Auburn, like they're going to pull like a 9-win season out of their ass and extend Harsin. I don't. Nothing would surprise
I
me.
hope so.
Yeah, I don't because from what I understand, I know he did some shady stuff, but from what I understand, he wasn't horrible this year. He played Alabama down to the wire, got him to a bowl game.
No, he wasn't horrible. Yeah, they just and they had a decent start to the season. I think they lost their last like 5, and like they were all like tight games. They lost a couple games they probably should have won.
And now they bring in Calzada, who is the only quarterback to beat Alabama in the regular season.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, I didn't think Gus Malzahn was that bad of a head coach, to be honest with you.
No, well, it wasn't. It was. It was expectation. A lot of toxic booster culture. There was a lot of reasons why Malzahn didn't work out, but he was. Overall, he was a success. His tenure was a success.
He won the national championship. He appeared in 2, correct? Am I wrong?
Well, he won the national championship as an offensive coordinator under Gene Chizik, and then he took Auburn to a national championship in 2013 as head coach.
And they had
they lost last minute to Florida State.
And then he nearly took them to the playoff in 2017. If they had beaten, they had beaten Georgia. That was when they beat Georgia in the regular Georgia and Alabama at the end of the regular season, and then lost to Georgia in the rematch in the SEC title game.
I don't like talking about 2017. I was in boot camp that year, and that was when Tennessee lost to Georgia 41-0, and I got a letter from my brother.
Oh no!
I still ain't out yet. I'm still waiting on my separation papers, to be honest with you. But I ain't gonna get political. But they're kicking me out for reasons.
Oh wow!
Here's what I don't get about Malzahn though, because there were some years where he left it up to the offensive coordinators. Like, who the hell did he have? But there were years where he'd leave it up to the coordinators to call plays and run the offense. Or there's the years where he ran it on his own, like 2013 or 2017, and it was successful. So why didn't he stick to that the whole time?
Well, because sometimes it didn't work out when he called the offense, and then he.
What's up, Cody?
It was kind of a back and forth type of thing. It'd be like, okay, well, he coaches the offense. He coaches the offense. Maybe they're successful, maybe they're not. Then if they're not, he goes and out and hire. He lets his offensive coordinator take the blame. He fires the offensive coordinator, hires a new one, lets the offensive coordinator run the plays. It's terrible. So then he's like, okay, all right, this isn't working. I'm calling the plays again next year, and then it was kind of a vicious cycle. But really, it is just because I think the biggest thing was he just never. For someone who he was called a quarterback whisperer and all that, he really didn't recruit the quarterback position very well. The best quarterbacks he had were transfer. Well, one was a wide receiver, a former wide receiver, and then another one was a transfer, and that he didn't develop. So it was.
And their best quarterback they've ever had is Malik Willis.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
he
didn't play a game. Yeah.
Under Gus.
Yeah. And I might sound like an absolute dummy saying this, But hear me out. If Kirby Smart doesn't get some quarterback development at Georgia, that's going to be his issue going down the road. I mean, you look at what they've had to a degree. Now, hear me out. I mean, you look at Justin Fields, you're not always going to have a generational talent defense, is what I'm saying. Maybe
Right.
you will. Who knows? But, I mean, I could see Georgia dropping a potential game this year because they can't keep up offensively because their defense couldn't stop them. And I'm not saying they're going to do that regular season, but you look at what happened in the SEC championship this year. As soon as Georgia faced an elite defense, which I would categorize Alabama as an elite defense, their offense fell apart. I mean, the regular season Tennessee game was more competitive than the SEC championship was. If I'm wrong, if I'm wrong, tell me. But
yeah, I mean, and the thing is, Kirby recruits the quarterback position pretty well. So I mean, I think I think there's
best back in the country.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, Neo? And
He's got
Cody?
a loaded quarterback room. So I mean, so you got to think, one of them is going to, he's had Carson Beck has been there for a while now. They have Brock Vandegrift, Gunnar Stockton. So I mean, maybe he gets Arch this year. So you got to think one of these guys has got to has got to pop, and
yeah, my whole argument
I just
against
think
that.
if I'm a
What's up, Jeff?
Well, I just think if I'm a stud, if I'm a 5-star quarterback recruit, and I don't have a favorite, I'm just looking around at the field. I want to find the coordinator, I want to find the coach that I'm comfortable with, and I'm not sure if I really give Georgia that serious a look, because Georgia's track record with their quarterbacks, I'm not sure that's where I want to go. I mean, I look at Dabo, I look at Nick, I look at Riley. I mean, there's a lot of places I'm going to look before I look at Athens.
Yep.
If I'm a receiver or a quarterback, and I'm looking
if I'm a
at the
receiver,
SEC,
I'm definitely not looking at Georgia.
Exactly. I'm looking at an Ole Miss, a Tennessee, or an Alabama. Just as far as offensively goes, Georgia. You look at Jake Fromm. You look at Easton, Jacob Easton. Both of those players regressed in their second years as starters. There was no development. They could have gotten better, but they didn't.
Yeah.
And that's where I see the issue. Justin Fields never should have been sitting on the bench at Georgia. Personal opinion in that matter, but he's an old
and I don't mean this is an attack on Georgia, but the entire history of Georgia football, they have one. You can spell that ONE, one receiver who's had 1,000-yard season.
Yep. That was what, Terrence Edwards? I
thought it was AJ Green. It was Terrence Edwards. Yeah. But you look back at Alabama. Let's see, Julio, whatever. You just start going down the list, and Alabama's not a team that's historically known to throw the ball. But then you can start looking around at other places too. There's a lot of schools that produce 1,000-yard receivers, and Georgia's not one of them. So if you're a guy that's thinking, I'm all about my NFL prospects, I don't care what my college is. I'm not. I grew up rooting for Georgia, and so you know what I mean. If everything is, all things being equal,
yep.
I don't think Georgia's high on your list. Now, if you're a linebacker, if you're a defensive lineman, if you're a running back, that's another story. But at receiver, what 5-star receiver, Jordan? Can you think of a 5-star receiver that's beating down the door to go to Notre Dame?
Nope, not really.
Yeah.
I mean, they've gone after some, but they don't land them.
Right, because why? Because Notre Dame's not going to have 1,000-yard receiver. They just don't do it.
They're more on the defensive side of the ball anyway, aren't they? I mean, if you look back and think about it,
they're all about the trenches, recruiting strong offensive lines. They recruit the tight end position really well.
Right.
But they're never, and they've tried, and they're trying in recent years to kind of get away from that and start getting more prolific in the passing game with their wide receivers, but it hasn't materialized yet. That their wide receiver room is probably better than it's been in a while, but it's it's not loaded with top 10
Right.
guys at their position type players.
Well,
It's more
that's
like,
just like if you're from the upper Midwest or you're from the area around where I live and you're a big beefy 3-4 star offensive lineman or tight end and Iowa comes looking at you, you start thinking about, well, I could go to Iowa City and go 8-4, 8-4, 9-3, because that's what Iowa does.
yep.
But what Iowa also does is they put offensive linemen and tight ends into the NFL.
Yeah.
And if that's what
Religiously.
you are, then you
Thank
start
you for
thinking about
Tristan
that.
Wirfs.
Well, Georgia, I think they will end up. I mean, not to say like Alabama, but there's going to. I mean, they didn't have to have a badass quarterback this year because of their
Right.
Right.
But
Yep.
they're going to end up somewhere this year, I think, where Alabama ended up in a couple of years, where they've got to beat somebody 42-35, and I think that's where you will see a quarterback change. I don't know which game that'll be, but I think it'll happen this year. And
I think Todd Monken
LW, what do you think? To me, I think we're going to have to beat that team 42-35. I think that happened to Alabama in the 2014 semifinal loss to Ohio State.
Right.
I think that was the turning point for Saban when he realized, you know what, if I'd have had one more touchdown, I'd have beat Ohio State.
Right.
And I think that was the light bulb moment for Saban was 2014 when he realized, defense is still important, but now the game has just changed. Now you got to put points up.
Bryce Young did an interview the other day where he said one of the reasons he came to Alabama was because of Tua.
Yep.
Before then, Alabama wasn't known for their quarterbacks. Tua opened up the door for these quarterbacks and receivers, and that will happen for Georgia. And I think, like I said, sometime this year, Kirby's going to figure out and then once that ball starts get rolling, where there's a quarterback there who can, they can put up 42 points a game, the receivers and the quarterbacks, and they'll come.
Right. Well, and he can, Saban can sit in Johnny quarterback's living room with grandma and with mama and grandma right there and say, well, let's see. I had Jalen Hurts. He's an NFL starter. I had Tua Tagovailoa. He's an NFL starter. I had Mac Jones. He's an NFL starter. And all those little ding, ding, dings, all those little bells start going off, and you start,
All this Notre Dame talk, though, just going back to that, got me thinking about Brian Kelly, and I'm not sold on him at LSU. He has lost every major football game he's coached in, minus the Clemson game that Trevor Lawrence was out of. And regardless of how good the ukulele played, I mean, you didn't have your leader out there, so let's just take that out of the equation. He's lost every major bowl game he's ever coached in. Right. Every game you coach in the SEC West and East in general is a major football game. I'm just not sold on him. He's going to have to convince me. I mean, what do you guys think about it?
Go ahead, Jordan.
Okay. Well, I do think that. I'm not sold on Brian Kelly. I think some people are a little. I think some of the does he fit in the culture thing might be a little overblown, but I do think it's. I'm interested to see what he does because LSU obviously doesn't have the kind of the kind of recruiting restrictions and limitations that Notre Dame has. So I'm kind of, and I think Brian Kelly is I think he recruited well at Notre Dame, all things considered. So I'm interested to see what LSU does in that aspect. And it's just there's a lot of unknowns there because we've never seen him play we've seen him play within a conference once.
Yeah.
But this is not the ACC. This is the SEC West. The toughest division in football. Or pretty much every program has relatively high expectations. There's four programs in that division that think they can win a national championship. So it's interesting. It's interesting to say the least.
Right.
I think.
Sorry.
No, I think Kelly will do okay, and the culture fit. Well, he's a Yankee. He's literally a New England. He's a Northerner. Despite his one-off appearance, he's got a New England accent. He's Catholic, but that'll work in Louisiana. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
Without the restrictions, without the mandated 2.5 GPA, and without the letter grade requirement that you pass freshman calculus, take those Notre Dame restrictions off, and he can go after a different breed of player, and he doesn't have to. It's just like the Mario thing at the U, and what you got in College Station, and what you got in Austin, what you got out in LA now with Lincoln Riley. They don't have to keep all their studs at home. They just have to slightly increase just the number of kids who are from there who leave. If they can make just a dent in those numbers, that's a big help for that program.
Yeah.
LSU can't have Alabama come in and take Devontae Smith from 5 miles away from Tiger Stadium. They can't let that happen.
The only thing I think it'll take an adjustment is all his coaches at Notre Dame pretty much stayed at Notre Dame.
I thought that was interesting that he wasn't able to. I don't know if that's. I don't know. I can't tell if that's more an indictment on Brian Kelly or just how much the staff likes Marcus Freeman. I honestly don't know.
That's got to be kind of a red flag, though, a little bit. I mean, if you look at it, well,
you got to understand if they know the guy,
that's true,
and they already live there and their families live there. Like if there was a new coach coming in, he would just wipe them out and bring in his own coaches. But they're friends with the guy. Their family lives there.
Now I will say LSU has always been set up to be successful in the fact that they're very patient with their head coaches. They're not like a Florida. They're not like a Tennessee. As much as it hurts me to say it, they're not like a South Carolina. They're not going to hire somebody every 3-4 years. They're going to give them some time.
Right.
Look at Ed O. The year after he loses the national championship, he starts to implode. They at least give him another year to put it back together. But, you win a national championship. 10 years ago, you had a job for the rest of your life if you won a national championship.
Well, I look at LSU like this. You go to 2002 to 2022. You got 20-year span there, okay? In that 20-year span, you've got 3 head coaches winning you 3 national championships. Well, as an Alabama fan, you can take 20 years and you could say, well, let's see, Bear won it in 79, so let's go to 80. From 80 to 2000, there's 20 years. I've got 5 head coaches and 1 natty.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, LSU kind of, they can do a little strut, Well,
Notre Dame, he took them 2012 to the Natty against Bama, and they were just overmatched. He took them to 2 playoff appearances. Whether they should have been in or not, I don't know. Whatever, but I mean, I don't know.
They were overwhelmed. They lost to the national champion both of those times.
Right.
And they actually lost by less than the runner-up did both times.
Yeah, and their 31-10 loss to Bama was the toughest game Bama played that year.
31-14. Yeah, I mean that was their.
Yeah.
They held Alabama to the least points all year.
Yep.
So in 18, and even the Clemson players said that Notre Dame was tough. Like they until when it was like a 9-3 game, like late in the first half when Julian Love went out. He got injured in that Clemson game. Like they were in that game, at least defensively. They weren't going to score, but defensively they were playing really well, and they were still in the game. And it kind of got away from them in the second half, but they, the history will remember that as a blowout. But it wasn't easy. They didn't make it easy for Clemson or Alabama in those playoff games. It was helped for it a little bit.
What the Irish need is they need a Tim Brown level, and they need the great wide receiver, and they need the hot shot quarterback. And if you put those two pieces in, because as much crap as Notre Dame gets in our community, that our community gives Notre Dame, there's a whole lot of things they do right.
Right.
And there's a whole lot of positions that that they've got good talent at. They're just a piece or two away. But the problem that they have is it's always the same piece, But if they get them, if they shock somebody and some kid comes in and all of a sudden he can wing it around, and the other pieces are always good. Like Notre Dame's always going to have good offensive and defensive lines. They're going to, because they're going to go through Metro Chicago and through Michigan and Ohio, and they're going to get their pick of good linemen. So they're always going to have that.
Yep.
But I think he'll do well at LSU is because he's going to have the athletes, skill position.
Right.
So I'm really interested to see how that plays out, and he's going to have his pick in Louisiana. I mean, kids in Louisiana, they don't. It's just the culture in that state. If you're a high profile athlete, more in Louisiana, 8-9 times out of 10, you're going to LSU.
Right.
So it'll be really interesting to see. Brian Kelly being situated in such a talented, region, and what he does, he'll be able to get the kind of skill position talent that he wasn't really able to attract at Notre Dame.
Yeah, and see, I had made the comment earlier. I said there were 10 winnable games on Tennessee's schedule next year. Now, I think they'll go by 8-4. That LSU game in Baton Rouge worries me for them, just because of the talent that's been in LSU for the past 10 years. Been there forever.
The one advantage y'all will have is at quarterback. That's
Hendon Hooker's to me. Hendon Hooker's flown under the radar for a lot of people this, past year or so. I mean, he threw over 30 touchdowns, less than 3 interceptions, or about, I think 33 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, I think was his numbers last year, which wasn't bad. Now, go ahead, sir.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to say Tennessee's 8-4. That's then we're going to all have to reevaluate Josh Heupel, because I thought he did a fine job last year trying to put the puzzle together when the pieces were scattered all over the tabletop.
Yeah,
and
that's always been my argument for him.
Right.
When Nico Iamaleava committed to Tennessee, everybody who said that he couldn't recruit got a big old glass and shut the heck up. That was big, and you can say it was NIL deals, whatever, but he still got that's still a huge deal. And if I'm not mistaken, Nick Saban himself said that he believed that Nico was the number one, end up being the number one quarterback rated in the country. His last name was Manning, he probably would be. But that's from what I've heard. Maybe I'm wrong, but that was a big deal, to get him on campus. And
Yeah. And on the Arch Manning thing, I'm not in love with Arch Manning either. I don't really think he's number one. I don't.
Oh, I flat out don't want him.
I only want him just so he won't go anywhere else, just in case he's
the most
right. Yeah, I'd like to have him and let him sit and not see the field in Tuscaloosa just to keep him from somebody else. But I don't. The Manning family has going back to Daddy Manning, way back to Arch's grandpa. I mean, the 1970s. I mean, they've got a 50-year history of absolutely hating Alabama. And I don't want the son of a bitches on our campus. I don't want the circus. I don't want the name. I don't want to have to hear about it. I don't want them.
Well, if you gave me the choice right now, Arch Manning.
We got Ty Simpson anyway, Jeff.
If you gave me the choice,
got Jalen Milroe too.
Yeah.
The hell with Ty Simpson. Jalen Milroe is the next man up.
That's what I was just about to say. If you gave me the choice of Arch Manning signing with Alabama and Jalen Milroe transferring, I don't want Arch Manning.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think he'll end up at Texas. If I'm a 5-star quarterback, if you're a 5-star quarterback in general, right? You just, like we were talking about earlier, if I'm a 5-star quarterback, why would I go to Georgia to have a walk-on start over me?
Right.
I mean, hey, look, I have always had the utmost respect for Stetson Bennett. Dude's a walk-on. He's 5'10", has no business taking snaps in Division I college football, but the dude won a national championship. Like, props to him.
I'm glad we didn't lose to him. I'm glad the history books are, because I don't know if I would have been able to take it.
Well, you know what? Jay Barker won 37 games as a starting quarterback in Tuscaloosa, 37, and he won a natty with national championship game numbers that were pathetic compared to what Stetson did. So, you don't have to be Joe Montana. You don't have to be Tom Brady. You don't have to light it all up to win it. What I'm curious about is and this is just for me personally. This is a very, very selfish thing to say, but I'm wondering if I'm going to be able to stand it if JT Daniels decides to transfer to White Trash U, and then I got to put up with YNG yapping his gums about how they got JT Daniels now and they're gonna win 10 games.
Is that where's he projected to go right now?
Well, he just visited Left Virginia, White Trash U.
Oh goodness.
Yeah. And yellow and navy guy will be going crazy if he.
I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah. White Trash. I never heard that before. Oh,
yeah,
I will say Kentucky fans ain't been this mad since they put Sudafed behind the counter, but that's none of my business.
I'd be more interested to see it.
I like that one.
I hate Kentucky fans right now. There's somebody running around saying that Nico Iamaleava is going to be Josh Heupel's downfall at Tennessee. Like, just the dumbest things I've ever heard. I mean, it's just stuff like that. I can't think it. Kentucky fans think they can talk trash, but I know Tennessee's been a dumpster fire for the past 20 years. But come on now. I mean, we beat Kentucky every year. That's something.
One that I'm excited to see is this next season. Keaton Slovis, transferred from USC to Pitt. And Kenny Pickett's going pro. That'll be interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I saw on ESPN two different shows. One of them was like NFL Today, and the other one was, I don't know, one of those morning shows. and they both had mock drafts on there, and in both mock drafts they had Kenny Pickett going number 6 to Carolina.
That's
And,
what
That'd be a
why
good
it's
pick.
very popular.
I about spit up all over myself. There's no way in hell Kenny Pickett is a top 6 pick worthy quarterback.
No.
That's top 10 though.
Man, the Panthers in general, I mean, I think that they might draft a quarterback, and I don't know if they should. I'm kind of scared for them because I don't even know if Matt Rule's going to be there next year.
Here's my argument. I think if Tennessee would have started Hendon Hooker from the beginning of the season last year, I think they would have beat Pitt. And Pitt ended up being ACC championship last year, correct? Am I wrong?
Yeah, they did.
They did. I mean, I think the ACC had a really down year last year. You see that turning around, Jordan?
Nothing new.
Honestly, I don't get where that down year for the AC. I mean, it was a down year for Clemson, but I think a lot of there were a couple of teams that were a lot better than they've been. I think the ACC was better than it's been in a while, at least a little.
It
bit
was
more
at least competitive, for sure. I didn't mean I meant on like more of a national stage.
Yeah, we didn't have a playoff contending team, but we had four teams finished in the top 25. We had 3 teams that won 10 games or more. And NC State probably should have been the 4th if UCLA didn't, chicken out on them a couple hours before kickoff. So I don't know. I think honestly the ACC is deeper than, especially going into this season. I think it's deeper than it's been in a while. It's at least since 2016, 17. Those were probably the best years the conference has had.
North Carolina just
been like
laid
that
an egg this year, though, didn't they? I thought North Carolina was going to be a playoff contender this
that's
year.
kind of where the whole ACC down year thing came from. Is they looked at the names of they looked at the logos and the guys the teams they expected to be good. The North Carolinas, the Miamis, because they underperformed. It didn't matter what the rest of the conference did. It was automatically a down year. Clemson, and obviously Clemson. So Pitt hasn't been winning 11 games and winning the ACC. Wake Forest is not a 10-win program. NC State hadn't. I mean, NC State has one 10-win season in program history. They probably should have gotten another one this year. I just, it is what it is. But I think there's a lot
Boston College was solid about halfway through the year, weren't they?
If Phil Dracovic hadn't gotten hurt, I think they would have been a lot better than because that's the problem. Phil Dracovic got hurt and they had no depth behind him.
Mm-hmm.
Their backup quarterback was not very good.
And the thing with Sam Howell with North Carolina, people didn't really focus on. They're not a Georgia or Clemson or Alabama where they just have the guys in waiting quite yet.
Yeah.
I mean, he lost a receiver and
2 receivers.
2 receivers and 2 running backs.
De'Ami Brown, Daz Newsome, Javonte Williams, and Michael Carter all gone. That was nearly like 4,000 yards of production between the 4 of them.
And they're just not at that level yet to where I think people overhyped them because they didn't. Okay, well, who's replacing those guys? People didn't really look at that.
Yeah, and
to me, the best thing for the ACC, and from my personal standpoint, is as long as everybody else in the ACC takes every opportunity they can to shit on Miami, then that's good enough for me.
I hope that happens.
As long as Miami gets is buried, then I don't really care what else happens.
Miami comes to Clemson this year. I'm excited for that game. That'll be fun. Second to last game of the year.
Yeah. See, I expect Clemson to be in a playoff team this year.
I hope so. Honestly, frankly, winning. I know that the expectation is different, but I'd feel a lot better if we at least won the conference again. Even if if we drop 2 games, that would suck. But I think I could stomach it if we won the league.
Now, will the Big Ten East be as competitive as it was last year? Because I know because to me the Big Ten East was probably the best conference as far as competition within the conference throughout the year.
Yeah.
Last year, I don't know if they will be, but they were really solid. I mean, it's like Iowa, Michigan, Ohio State. They were all rearing to go. Michigan State was really good.
in the West, but yeah.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. I'm pretty ignorant when it comes to Big Ten football.
But Ohio State and in Michigan, obviously, and Penn State. People clowned on the Penn State had a horrendously difficult schedule.
Yeah.
They went 7-5, but I think they were a better team than 7-5. Who else?
Ohio State.
South Carolina. I'll say South Carolina's got a rough schedule this year. I looked at their schedule today, and it looks horrendous.
Well, South Carolina has a tough schedule. I mean, anytime. You got to play Georgia, Clemson, and Texas A&M every year off the bat.
Tennessee's got to play Alabama every year, so I don't want to hear that.
But imagine, I guess in Tennessee's, they have to play Alabama, so they have to play Georgia, then Alabama. So, but South Carolina does have it rough compared. I mean, not.
Oh,
they still do have it rough. And that was when I was out on Butch Jones. That was when because Butch Jones had just wanted. Either I think it was coming off 2016 when he had a playoff caliber team and dropped some stupid games that he shouldn't have lost. I'm not saying Tennessee would have went to the playoffs that year, but they were talented enough to at least make a case. To go 8-4 that year was ridiculous, but I lost my train of thought here. When he was talking about how that Tennessee shouldn't have to play Alabama every year. That was when I was like, dude, get out of here.
Oh, hell.
Third Saturday in October is college football. Regardless of how bad Tennessee's been horrible.
Do you guys know that Ole Miss and Georgia Tech are playing week 3 this year?
Yeah.
That's going to be a disaster for Georgia Tech.
Sorry, Sea-Dog.
Yeah, I tend to think so. That's Georgia Tech they're hurting right now.
Yeah. Listen, guys, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say Georgia Tech's falling off, but go ahead.
Georgia
Tech was decent for a few years. But
if y'all want to keep talking, I can keep it open, but I'm at least going to end it on Facebook and YouTube because I'm going to try to catch some sleep for church tomorrow. But
that's fine,
man. I'm going to hop off here. I got 24-hour duty tomorrow. So,
guys.
Y'all have a good one. I appreciate you letting me on, Ballard.
Yeah, man, anytime.
All right. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Not sleep.
Later, Ballard.
See you, Jordan.
Jordan.
Later, Jeff.
All right. Take care, Tater.
Take care, Jeff.
All right, Ballard. Remember, the world hates you. It hated me first.
Yeah.
Blessed are those who suffer unrighteousness for my name's sake.
Absolutely. Amen.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. See you, buddy. All right. Thank you, Jeff, Jordan, Cody, SEC Dog, Fools, and Hokey, everybody that showed up tonight, man. I love y'all. Y'all are amazing. I am exhausted. I'm honestly falling asleep over here, but y'all take care. We'll see you tomorrow night for the Unprofessional Sports Show featuring, most likely, TikTok Chess All. So we'll be here. We'll do the show, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night. Love y'all. Jesus loves you. He's got a great plan. God bless. And like I always say,
roll down Tide.
Roll Tide. Your boy Ballard is out.
Roll Tide!